Okay, so let's see this passage on. I shifted to another. Okay, let's see this passage on what is happening. Okay, so let's see this passage on humanities and understand what this passage is actually talking about. So, tracing the melody of our past, the harmony between early human music and language sings the songs that transcends the metronomic beat of conventional history. Okay, so you can see that right from the start of the sentence, it looks like a vocabulary dominated this, and this is how humanities passages generally test you upon. So what does it say is that tracing the melody of our past. So in a simple manner, that if we look back at human history, okay, so the harmony between early human music and language sings a song, okay. So we see that the early music, okay, and language, okay, they were closely connected, and that transcends the metronomic beat of conventional history. And this connection is deeper and more meaningful than the simple step by step way history is usually told, okay. So that is the case. Now, this interplay harks back to an anti-artifice philosophy reminiscent of the ideals propagated by the ancient philosopher and music theorist Pythagoras. Okay. Now, they say that this connection, so this interplay harks back to an anti-artifice philosophy. Okay. So, this connection reminds us of the ideas of Pythagoras. Okay, now, who's this Pythagoras? He's an ancient philosopher and a music theorist, and he believed in being natural, and we can say kind of simple, okay, not artificial or overly complicated. So, this interplay harks back to an anti-artifice, okay. Now, what is this anti-artifice? This is the one word that you should actually know at, okay. So, anti-artifice is something that is basically, we can say, a preference for natural, okay, or authentic, okay, something that is against the excessive ornamentation, okay. So that is the case in a very simple manner, okay. So that is the case, that who believes in being natural and simple, okay, not artificial and overly complicated. That is what the anti-artifice is, okay. He favored the raw, unfiltered expression of art, bemoaning the encroachment of sophisticated artifice. So Pythagoras likes the pure and a natural expression of art, and he does not like it when art becomes too complex, okay, or fake looking, okay. That is the case. Now, primitive music, frequently seen as a basic rudimentary form of artistic expression, reveals itself as a dynamic precursor to complex cultural phenomenon when examined more closely, okay. So they say that early music may seem simple, but if we study it carefully, we realize it is actually helped shaped advanced culture and art later on. Okay, so primitive music, frequently based on a basic rudimentary form of artistic expression, reveals itself as a dynamic precursor to complex cultural phenomenon when examined more closely. Okay, so that's the case. Now, what is the passage? What is the intent of this paragraph? Is that they say that the early music and kind of language, they were deeply connected and important. So even though ancient music seems very simple, okay, it played a big role in developing human culture. And like Pythagoras believed, natural and simple art can be very powerful and meaningful. Okay, that's what this case is. A case in a point is the bone flute found in the Hohlfels cave in Germany, dating back to the upper Paleolithic era. Now, they say that an example of early music is a bone flute जो bone से बनी हुई, okay, which has been found in this Hohlfels cave, and they say that this flute is very old, maybe from something from the upper Paleolithic era, okay, and maybe something we can say very tens of thousands of years ago. Now, this ancient instrument stands as a testament to the role of music in early human societies, suggesting an inherent connection between these rudiment melodies and the development of language. Okay, now this old flute shows that music was important to early humans. It also suggests that simple music such as melodies may have been in help the development of the language. Okay, so in short, they say that the discovery of an ancient flute, okay, it proves that early humans made music, and this simple music may have helped humans develop language. Now, the symbiotic relation between early human music and language defines a captivating paradigm. So they say that early human music and language depend on each other. Okay, so it depends upon the symbiotic is dependence. Okay, depend on each other and work together. This idea gives us an interesting way to understand human development. Okay, the ability to create, engage with, and interpret these rudimentary forms of expression marks the birthplace of human creativity and interaction. So they say that when the early humans started making and understanding this simple musics and sounds, okay, it marked the beginning of creativity and interaction or communication between people. This genesis is not simply a passive record of primitive communication, it is the prehistoric echo of our ancestors' communal bond, shared experience, and collective consciousness. Okay, so they say that this beginning is not just about, we can say, a primitive or a simple communication. Okay, it shows how early humans were connected with each other, how they actually shared experiences and thoughts as a collective group, okay, or as a group. Moreover, studies of indigenous tribes in the Sentinelese who have remained in isolation for thousands of years reveal that evolutionary path of language and music as their expression remain closely intertwined, blurring the lines between song and spoken word. Okay, so they says that research on isolated groups, especially like these of Sentinelese, okay, shows how language and music developed in their communication. Singing and speaking were very closely connected, almost like they are the same thing, okay, blurring the lines between the song and a spoken word. So they say that music and a language, it actually grow together in early humans, okay, and these two things actually help people become creative, communicate, bond as a group. And even today, some isolated tribe shows that music and speech are closely connected. In our modern intellectual landscape, the essence of primitive music and language paradoxically straddles the line between irrelevance and significance, much like how the simplistic patterns of cave art now inspired modern abstract creations. The fundamental structures of early human music and language have paved the way for complex cultural constructs. So we can see a complex sentence, okay? Let's break it out and see what is the easy explanation. Now, so in our modern intellectual landscape, that is in today early music and language, okay, this the connection of this music and language, okay, it looks unimportant, okay, but they are actually very important at the same time, okay. Just like simple cave drawings, okay, they inspired modern abstract art. Early music and language helped create today's complex culture, okay. Now, despite the perceived simplicity, these basic forms of expressions are experiencing a scholarly resurgence, their influence rippling through the realms of linguistics, anthropology, and musicology. Okay, so even though they look simple, okay, these early forms are becoming more important again in research. Okay, they're now being studied in the field of linguistic, anthropology, and musicology. Okay, so basically what this paragraph says that early music and language may seem unimportant today, okay, but they actually shape the modern culture, and now they are being studied again because they are important. Okay, now each rendition of the primitive music and the revolution of early languages forms create a cascade of cultural evolution, each wave reshaping and redefining the original while preserving its essence. Okay, so they say that every time early music was performed and language developed, okay, it helped cultural grow and we can say evolve, okay, and change. With each change, things become more refined, but the basic idea stayed the same, preserving its essence. Okay, now the dawn of civilization saw basic rhythmic patterns and simple vocalizations metamorphose into varied musical genres and complex language. So they say that as civilization began, okay, simple beats and sounds slowly change into different types of musics, and the languages become advanced. For example, instance, the Homeric epics of ancient Greeks chanted in the rhythmic verses illustrate the evolution of rhythmic expressions to poetic language. Okay, so they say that the Homeric epics from ancient Greeks were spoken or sung in rhythm. Okay, they show how simple rhythm turned into a structure, poetry, and language. Okay, change, however, takes manifold forms. So change can happen in many different ways. Okay, contemporary scholars draw inspiration from a wide range of sources, from ancient artifacts and historical texts to the impact of global migration and the principles of evolutionary biology, that today's researchers, okay, contemporary scholars, so they learn from many sources, okay, ranging from old objects to historical writings to global movements of the people, okay, and ideas from evolutionary biology. So they say that early music and language kept changing over time, and they become more complex but keeping their basic roots. Okay, today experts study many different sources to understand this evolution. As we continue to decipher the music of our past and its deep seated connection with the evolution of language, we become more attuned to the timeless symphony of human existence. Okay. So this says that as we kept studying ancient music and how it connects to language, we better understand the long and continuous story of human life. Okay. For the current generation of researchers and enthusiasts, the confluence of archaeological findings, digital reconstructions, and comparative linguistic studies serve as a fertile ground where new insights into the birth and development of human music, language, and languages are unearthed. Okay, so they say that today researchers use many tools. Okay, for example, let's say archaeological finding, digital reconstructions, comparative linguistic studies. Okay, so to learn new things about how music and language begin and develop. Okay, the echoes of our ancestors continue to resonate, underscoring the enduring connection between music, language, and our shared human journey. Okay, and the influence of our ancestors is still with us today. It shows that music, language, and human life are always connected. Okay, so basically this paragraph says that by studying the past we understand that music and language, okay, um they have always been connected and are still important in our everyday lives today. Okay, in short, let's understand what is this passage is talking about. Okay, so passage says that early humans use music and language, okay, and together, and both grew side by side. Okay, even though their music and speech were simple, they were very important because they kind of help communicate, connect, and build culture. Okay, over time these simple sounds and rhythm musics change into complex language, poetry, okay, etc. But today, scientists study early humans and ancient objects, and even isolated groups like Sentinelese to understand how music and language evolved, and their connection still continues. I mean, like the music and the language have always been deeply connected, and this connection still continues in our lives today. So, this was the passage was all about. I hope you're able to get this passage.